Hello, I'm Corinna. Welcome to my classroom. I'd like to take a moment to explain the narrative tenses. The narrative tenses are absolutely essential because you use them when you talk about experiences in the past. And so today I'm going to explain 3 of those narrative tenses. Have a look at this image. I'm going to tell you a story based on this image. Can you tell what my story will be about? And so this is the beautiful St. Mark's Square in Venice. And the title of my story is A Moment in Venice. As you listen to it for the first time, I'd like you to write down the actions that you hear. In other words, the narrative tenses. Are you ready? A moment in Venice. They collided in St. Mark's Square. As they apologized in their different languages, he sensed that something had passed between them. His heart had been touched. In that second, something almost magical had occurred. He watched her vanish amongst the gathering of people and pigeons. She had his wallet. So, which actions did you pick up on? So I'd like you to listen to the story again. This time, I'd like you to complete the last sentence. So try to think of the word that's missing. They collided in St. Mark's Square. As they apologized in their different languages, he sensed that something had passed between them. His heart had been touched. In that second, something almost magical had occurred. He was watching her as she vanished amongst the gathering of people and pigeons. She had his wallet. So what happened in the beautiful St. Mark's Square? Was it romantic, or was it only implying romance? Was there a victim in this story? And can you guess the woman's job? They also mentioned a wallet. And so whose wallet are we talking about? The man's or the woman's? If you said the man's, then you're right. And where did the man keep his wallet? Well, according to the story, his heart had been touched. So we can infer that he kept his wallet in his front jacket pocket, because that's where his heart is. And the story also says that something almost magical had occurred. So we can assume she was really good at her job. Yeah, it was like magic when she his wallet. Can you guess the missing word? Have you guessed it already? She had his wallet. If you said that she's a pickpocket and had stolen his wallet, then you're absolutely right. That's what happened in St. Mark's Square. Something to watch out for in most metropolitan squares. So let's have a look at the text a little bit more closely, so we can analyze the narrative tenses. Now remember, we were looking at 3 of the narrative tenses. Oops. There we go. Choose our color. So the first narrative tense is the simple past, which most of you are probably very familiar with. Then we also have the past continuous. And let's not forget the past perfect. So going through the text, we have this as our first action, collided. Apologized, sensed, had passed, had been. Touched is an adjective, so not part of the past perfect. Had occurred, was watching, vanished, And, last one, our missing word, had stolen. So which one of these is the simple past? Collided, apologized, sensed, and vanished. What about the past perfect? Had passed, had been, had occurred, and had stolen. Now the last one, we only have one example of the past continuous, is here, was watching. Now a very good way of understanding the narrative tenses is by looking at them on a timeline. That way you can really compare the different uses, which is what we're going to do next. So I have 3 sentences prepared for you. Each one of them contains one of the narrative tenses. Let's go through them individually. And the first one, when Matilda arrived home, Philip cooked dinner. Arrived is the first verb. Got the simple past here. So the second one is what we're going to look at, cooked, which is also the simple past, on the timeline. So let's say Matilda arrived here in the past. So my question is, when did Philip cook? Did he cook before she arrived, during, or after? Was it a surprise, in other words? And if you answered before, then unfortunately it's not right. It's a very common mistake, actually, to think that this would be before. But in fact, we're talking about consecutive actions, which is the essence of the simple past. So this was said first, and this was said second, and therefore, cooked will be second in line. So whenever you want to explain something that occurred in the past, and you just want to list the actions, then you would use the simple past. Okay. Now the next one is the past continuous. Here's our handy timeline. Here's when Matilda arrived. So when Matilda arrived home, Philip was cooking dinner. So here, did Philip manage to surprise his beautiful wife with a lovely dinner? Let's see. When did he start cooking? Did you say before? In that case, you're right. It occurred before, but it's implied that he finished after. So Matilda arrived home when he was in the middle of it, probably making a mess. Okay, so we use the the past continuous when we're talking about a long action in which another action occurs. So it starts before and continues after another action in the past. Then we have, in the next example, the past perfect, which is here, had cooked. So when Matilda arrived home, Philip had cooked dinner. Was he successful here in surprising his wife with a lovely meal? If your answer was yes, then you're correct. He did manage this time. So it started before, and he finished also before she arrived. I like to refer to the past perfect as the catapult of the narrative tenses because it really is a little bit more powerful than the other two. You can use it at the end of the sentence and refer back to another action that occurred prior to the one already mentioned. And so it's more dynamic to use all 3 of these tenses instead of only focusing on the usual, the simple past. Okay. So thank you for listening, and I hope I was able to clarify 3 of the narrative tenses. You're welcome to join my Facebook page for bi-weekly exercise. Thank you. Bye-bye.